Yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I've got a submission here from a new submitter, tankmonger1 in his Jackson Tier 6 American TD. This is really a heavy, I don't know, maybe it's a heavy, maybe it's a medium. It's not a TD. You should not play it as a TD, at least in my opinion. Pretty good mobility. It's got a turret. It's basically a heavy, medium, heavy thing. Alright, so he sent this in and said, would you be willing to do an analysis? I ended up losing this, and I wanted to know what I could have done to maybe win it. And the answer to that is always, well, everything. It starts from the beginning, starts from your initial positioning decision, starts with any repositions you make, any follow-on decision making. So we'll just take this step by step. And sometimes, even if you play a perfect game, well, let me back this up. I personally think if you personally played a perfect game, you would always win. Now, I've had a lot of arguments with people about that, but I'm talking in a theoretical world where every single decision you made was absolutely perfect and you killed all 15 of the enemy, right? So that's a theoretical kind of idea. But you take that, you extrapolate that down to, or you distill that down to the real world, and you can usually win a few more, right? You're not going to win all of them, but you can win a few more. If you start at the beginning when you debrief and look how you did, and you try to find all those little things that happened, or at least as many as you can. We all miss some. Initial positioning decision is to go down here into the southwest. I don't know anything about Tankmonger. It's the first time I've ever seen him play. So I don't know if he says in his mind, I'm a tank destroyer, I go to tank destroyer-y places. But now let's talk about that. Let's say Guido is fine with that. Hey, I'm a tank destroyer, I hang out in the back. Okay, good enough. Initial decision making, positioning, I've gone to a tank destroyer-y kind of place. But you have got to, even in a tank destroyer, assess what's going on around you and then react to it. So while this may have seemed like a really cool place to go initially, as soon as I see my whole team, not the whole team, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, I can't count, 5, 6 counting Tankmonger, are all over here, there's no real reason to sit back here. And then I also take into account the fact that I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the enemy team. One of them being an Artie, but there's another 2 Artie on there, so 11. That only leaves 4 unaccounted for that aren't Artie against our 6. So we're going to hang out right here for a little while. And so my first thing would be for you, Tankmonger, is once you saw that developing right there, I'd have pressed W and I'd have been moving out. There's an M4. And I often ask this of people. All right, so what's the plan? Here you are. What's the plan? Well, boss, the plan is to wait for someone to jump in front of my gun. Well, how likely is that when there are already 5 of your own tanks up there, keeping them from really pushing in? Is there really going to be a mad rush? There we go. And off we go. So the point of all that is that we've lost a little time being up forward where we might get a shot. We've lost a little time up forward where we might have got a shot. And every hit point you reduce from them earlier than you have hit points reduced from your team, the better. Obviously, there are situations where they can come back and reduce a bunch of hit points where you didn't get any of theirs. I got that. But as a general idea, the earlier you can get into the fight, the better. That being said, careful such that you're not just giving up hit points in order to get those shots that Guido said you have to have early. I raged out and I got my 1,000 damage early, and that's what Guido said you had to do to be good. And then I died. Well, no, that's not what I'm getting at. But here we go. So Tankmonger does see it. He does see it, and he's moving up. But there's already been a fight up here. Think about that for a minute. There's a tank down. The T-67 has a hit. The Panzer IV-H has a hit. You've killed one of them. They've killed 3 of you, and you haven't fired a single shot. Just think about that for a minute. You should have been up there helping out. Another gun in the game, another gun firing earlier, maybe preserving some of these hit points. Preserved hit points end up being hit points taken away from the enemy tank in general. Because that means your guys stay alive longer, or they have another opportunity to trade and take another shot. Or maybe they take a shot for you. If they're not there, they can't take a shot for you. So we're going to come around here, 40 TP. Oh my gosh. This is something I've saw a lot from you here. I can't... That was very strange. I think somebody rammed you, but... And this gets into... Everyone's got their personal thing, and I don't know really what's going on here, but you're kind of herky-jerky with your aiming, and I don't know if you're using the zoom to aim, or if you're not used to the scroll wheel, or it's just a personal issue without getting into, you know, all that kind of thing. But if there is something you can do to smooth out some of this zooming in and zooming out, it would probably help you out quite a bit. Sometimes there just isn't. That was a nicely aimed and good selection of a point to hit. There wasn't much there to go after, but you didn't go after the tracks. You went slightly to the right of the tracks and got into his hole and took him down. So that was well done. So we've taken some shots, and we're kind of hanging out. All right, this is something I talk about quite a bit. You've won this flank. Golf clap. Well done, fellas. You got the flank. The question now is, all right, well, what do we do with that? On most maps, this one in particular, pushing the enemy cap at this point is not a good idea. If your other flank had rolled them up completely and were headed towards the cap, then maybe you stay there and you pinch them. But what's happening now is your other side is defensive / stalled, i.e. they're not pushing into the flank. And look at that stack of guys. You can expect all those TDs to be hanging out in bushes, and that there's still a scout in the middle. So pushing across that big open area along the A or B line going towards the east is probably not a great idea. So watch what your team does. They're herded your... So, hey, we won. Let's push. Let's go push their cap. That seems like a good idea. And to some extent, you do the same thing. You come across the middle and kind of look around. Now, this is, even though you're middle tier, this is one of the best. You have one of the best guns on your team. There we go. We got him. Unlucky, kind of misses. We take a hit from the Panzer IV-S. And we're going to cover up, which is a great idea. If you look at the direction that shot came from, he's right over here somewhere. I liked the jink to the left to cover up with that building, and I'd have stopped right about here, and then I'd start punishing that T-150. And when you look at games that were close towards the end, you have low hit points, they have low hit points, they have a couple extra tanks. Every single shot like this that you pass up or miss or don't investigate or don't take all adds up at the end. So I just stopped right there and taken another shot. And look how long that 150 is exposed. I think he's actually gone around the corner right now. Nope, he's still there. You still have shots on him. And more than likely, you'd have got at least one in him, and if he was dopey and didn't try to go around the corner, maybe two, and killed this guy off, and then he goes dark. We stop. So the idea to preserve your life was a good one, but I think you only needed a little left jink there, and then stop and put a hit on the T-150, but he goes into hiding. Now your Panzer IV-H and Churchill are over there dancing around. Unfortunately, that doesn't go in. Then you're going to get unlucky, and the shot's going to go right. Not a lot you can do about this next shot. It's actually into the wall, and unfortunately, he's then going to repair and get away. A little bit unlucky. So in some cases, that's another factor that happens in close games. Sometimes RNG gets a vote. Most times RNG gets a vote. The question is, what do you do with that bad luck or that good luck afterwards? You just have to press on. So we're going to take a peek right here and see what's going on. Panzer IV-H looks like the Churchill just drove into his death, and here we go. This is just unlucky. Hitting his turret, it looks like, right into the mantlet. That thing has a pretty good mantlet. And then you're pointing down. I wanted to see, can you actually... Yes, you can get to this lower hole. You're pointing right at his turret. I'd have gone right there and given him some hole love, but you're pointing right at the turret. And that's just asking to bounce off of mantlets and things like that. So investigate that. See how, well, it's gone away. You look at how the silhouette of the tank is, and then you go up and down and you see where the ground is. And if your little pipper right there goes from green and stops highlighting the guy, well, you've got ground or something, or a dead tank or something in the way, and then you can shift your aim up. But in his case, he was completely exposed. I do like this though. You're going to take another shot right where he was, and if he's dopey, he's going to have stayed there. And I don't remember if you take another one, you might. There you go. It doesn't die. And now, head back. Now, again, decision time. We talked about it a little bit earlier when you won that flank. You decided to sort of go to the middle. You got a couple shots, and unfortunately, you didn't finish off the T-150. The other option at that point was to flex all the way back around to where the enemy was. Because we've already talked about pushing across the A-B-C line is not a great idea out in the open. So if that's not a great idea, and I don't have a lot of shots, you've got a couple, that's fine. Maybe I need to go all the way back around and start going back towards my cap and help my other flank. And the problem here is that the other flank is completely collapsed. And now we've got a real issue. At this point, headed over to that other side and just charging in is not a good idea. You're more of a defensive, well, TD sniper at this point. Whether you were in a heavy or a medium wouldn't matter at this point. You would be playing TD kind of play, hanging out in as far back as possible, trying to shoot them while they're not seeing you. Panzer T-25 gets into the cap, and there's a mutual kill. Oh, I guess you got the 304 and that M44 got the T-25, so not a mutual kill, and now there's only 4 of you. The Skoda is down there spotting. You're going to come around, go up this ramp, and you do a pretty nice job right here. This is a fairly strong spot. One nice thing about it that we will notice once you get up to it is that it is pretty well protected from artillery over in that area right there. Not perfectly, but it does complicate their shots. And we're going to have some issues with gunnery right here. Kind of, again, the herky-jerky thing. Not really sure what's going on right there. If it is possible to work on it, then go ahead and do so. Get a shot on him, that's nice. Takes a while to get the shots off as well in a couple of cases. As opposed to being ready to fire just when it gets reloaded, we're kind of messing around. Nope, not really sure what happened there. There you go. As soon as that reloads, just hold down the key. There you go, and you did right there, and man, unlucky. I think it hit the angled turret, which was angled downwards. There we go. We take him out. Now we've got an IS. Watching him come. Let's see if we can get a shot on him. Just took a little while to get that shot off. I might go for his front sprocket in here somewhere. See if you can't track him down, or track him, and track him down. Unfortunately, that bounces, and now you're spotted as he gets a bit close. He's hiding out behind that gravel. We're going to come up. Waiting for a shot. There we go, right into that. Definitely would be dabbing 2 at this point against an IS. You need to make these shots count. And we just accept a shot sort of into his side there. I'd have gone for that front plate. And again, hitting 2 is your friend right here. Again, we shoot over into the side. Every shot counts right now. I'd have gone for his front plate. And he comes up here and hides. The other thing that has to be going through your mind is a timing idea of there's you and an artillery, and he has 3 tank friends. There's him and 2 others. Relatively safe from the artillery, but you have to be expecting the tanks to show up. So it might have been a good idea right here to just reposition, but it looks like you want to make sure this IS dies, and this is pretty funny right here what happens. Takes him down with number 2 pressed. And now we have to start worrying about these other tanks. How do we deal with these guys? Well, the good news is we got a lot of hit points, and there's the Panzer IVs. With the magic turret, we have a bit of trouble taking him down, but you find a good position. I like this. You come over here, you've got some cover on this thing here, and it takes you a while to get in here and get a shot and bounce, because guess what? You hit right where you aimed, at his mantlet. Trying to avoid getting shot here, looking for a shot. Holy cow. There we go, and down he goes. Now there's a guy on cap, and you immediately start moving. I would have waited a little while longer. You got plenty of time. Because an artillery shell is going to hit you. You didn't wait long enough. He saw you start the movement. You may have saw you start to move. You may have still been lit. Now here's an interesting thing. You're stunned, right? You're stunned. The stun's counting down. And now the stun is gone. But a very important thing has happened during that blast, and it is the fact that your commander is dead. So you do not have 6th sense, and it's going to force you to get very close before you light anybody, and you're trying to light somebody on the cap. Look how small your green circle is. So you definitely have a med kit. You should have fixed your commander right there. So we're going to come up here. Now, had your commander been fixed, we could have done something like come up this way and look for a longer range sighting of the guy and maybe outspot him, depending on how good that crew is. He's only a Panzer IV-H, so who knows what kind of crew he has in there. This thing has decent spotting vision. So maybe over here, if your commander was alive and your green line was further out, you may have been able to just inch up over here, I guess, inch forward until you just lit him and let artillery work on the guy. Or if he's just one shot, blast him. But what this forces you to do is you got to get nice and close in here, and that's going to get you absolutely lit by the Panzer IV-H. Also, this is something I haven't mentioned. I'm not really sure why you drive like this, and it happens almost all the time. When I'm driving and I'm looking to fight multiple tanks potentially, or I need to gain all the SA I want, I'm going to be third person out here, and as I'm driving, I'm going to be looking around. Now, in this case, the threat's here, so I am going to definitely be focused there, but other times as you're driving around, you'll be driving like this. I'd have it lifted up, and I'd be looking around. You can go right mouse button to keep your turret locked forward and just sort of take peeks around. What are you going to see? You may see tanks, you may see trees go down, you may see rubble get knocked down, you may see all kinds of different things. It's easier if I do this and I see the red tank appear than to always be trying to cross-check between looking straight forward and then down here on the mini-map. And then trying to identify where he is in relation to me, because really, on the mini-map, you're pointed here, north is up kind of idea, but really, you are headed this way. You're headed off to the east. So if a tank appears on your right, it's going to be here on the mini-map. It makes a lot more sense to me if I'm doing this and I go, oh, he's on my right. So I'm just kind of checking as I go. So we find this guy's kind of top turret thing and we stop. And guess what? You're spotted, and I don't know if you know you are, because you do not have your commander. And you get hammered by artillery. I'd have not stopped. That's the other consideration. You know there's artillery, and I'm really surprised you didn't just get completely nuked right here. Another one comes in, another 159 hit points given up. And we're just sort of sitting there, and thank goodness the M44 takes this guy down. But we ate a bunch of shots. I'd have never stopped as I was coming in there. You'd have been able to preserve it a lot better had you spotted him way over here. But as I drove in and he backed up behind that thing, I'd have cut left and come around this way, as opposed to stopping in the middle of the road. So now we have 4 minutes, and we're headed up this way, and then you kind of change your mind. I thought you were going to go around and come down the road, but you spin around, you change your mind, and we're going to head this way. And I'm going to go ahead and speed it up, but you only had 4 minutes. And one of your questions was, hey, if we're late game, how do I make this thing happen? And you're really going to give yourself a time crunch here. The M44 does ask you how you want to do it. You're like, I don't know, I'm going to make it happen. And look how long this took. You're down to 3 minutes. About right now. This is not a bad approach. You fade all the way left, and now we're down to 2. Getting down to 2 minutes. By the time we get around, it speed it up even more. Come all the way around this way, and as we come up to cap, holy cow, it took us about 2.5 minutes to get all the way around, because it's not really a super fast tank. So I've really put myself in a time crunch. At late game, and most of the game is really about time. How much time do I have to do what I need to do? Can I take the hit points of the enemy faster? Can I get to the cap? Do I have time to cap? Late game, things like this. All these are considerations. You're going to kind of look for this guy. I probably would have just got on cap here, right on the top of this hill, because that's going to kind of make their shots harder for artillery. They got it when you're in an artillery and you're lifting up your gun and you're trying to put a pipper, say he's trying to do TD mode, he's trying to put a pipper on you, but there's also terrain involved right there that makes it jump all over the place, and it's much harder to do. In addition to that, if you were sitting right here, or maybe even right here is probably not bad either, they're going to have a hard time coming all the way around the corner, squaring up and shooting you before you can get a shot on them. In addition to that, you're pretty sure they're not over here. So sitting here is fine from an artillery hitting you standpoint, unless they happen to have been hiding down the middle. This is possible. Maybe they're down here and you just missed them, and then they would have shots. But either way, they don't know where you are. Just drive right over here and hang out. Force them to come to you, but we're also low on time, so we don't really have the time to do that. And we choose to push through, and we're just really praying that we can find all three and shoot them before they shotgun us. The other problem with this plan is your buddy Artie cannot really fire into there, although he gives it a shot coming out the M12. I guess he was expecting him to be there. He tries. We're going to come up here, square up. We're going to take a shot, and we actually bounce. That's infuriating. And we end up getting shotgunned. Clearly, when you saw him, I probably would have just dodged back in here. It was going to be a tough nut to crack anyway, because now they know where you are, but at least you wouldn't have squared up and taken one right in the face. But if you were to look at this and go, oh, I screwed up this last part. If I'd have just jinked instead of jived, if I had cut right instead of left, I probably would have won this or might have had a chance. So the real answer to that is back it all the way up to the beginning, and all the little mistakes start stacking on top of each other until you get the big snowball rolling downhill. And by the time you could get to this point in the game, you're down to 100 and whatever it was hit points, 131 hit points, and not a lot of options there. So could you have pulled this one out? Probably. If you played a little bit better through the whole game. But then again, a couple players could have played a little bit better through this whole game and given you guys an option, because this was really a pretty close game. You almost got there. Nicely done, though. 2,000 damage, 746 assist. I wasn't too excited about the initial positioning plan until you started to move up. I thought what you're doing to flex was pretty good. I thought Probably one of the biggest mistakes mid-game was not fixing your commander and being a little more careful about spotting the guy in the cap and just inviting the artillery to come in and rain death on you. So I don't know if your plan was to come in low right there just to make sure you spotted him anyway, or if you even noticed your commander was alive, but that could have been done a lot better and maybe preserved some hit points. And guess what? Had you come here with preserved hit points, then that splash or hit might not have killed you, and you could have moved on from there. Just like any time you come into a fight with more hit points, it's going to help you. All right, man, that is a lot of things to think about. Thanks for sending that in. I always like seeing the newer players or the new players send me, new to me anyway, send me in replay so we can take a look at it and learn a little something. That is all I got. I am out. We will see ya.